I'm David Peterson. In today's video, we're going to refurbish this Bluebird box. And we know it's a Bluebird box because it has this 1.5-inch hole right here. We did put the protector on it as well years ago. And this metal protector keeps the squirrel from digging out the hole and making it a little bit bigger. So we're going to talk about how we're going to refurbish it. We've already done it before. It's in pretty bad shape, but it's no problem when this is all cleaned up. It's going to look just like new. Okay, so this Bluebird box opens from the side, and I always tell people that we want to clean out the nest after every time the birds fledge. So down here in Georgia, that could be up to 3 times a year. Now that doesn't happen naturally, obviously. If a bird's using an old woodpecker hole, nobody's going up there and cleaning out the nest. So why are we? Well, what we're doing is we're going to take the nest out, throw it on the ground, and what we're looking for is bugs. Bugs, ants. You can see we actually have a creepy crawler in here right now. I'm going to take him outside and let him loose. But we're also looking for anything that could damage the house. So in our case, I don't know if we can get a good picture of it. We got termite damage over here on the side. Now I'm going to scrape out the termite damage that we have, but I'm not going to repair it on the inside or anything like that. I'm just going to repair it on the outside. You can see this box was repaired several years ago. I stuck some giant staples in here. I probably had this thing, probably 12 years. It started off blue, and then I ended up with some redwood stain, and so that's what we're going to do. We're going to restain it. I'm going to use some bleach, and the reason for the bleach mixed with the cleaner here, the spray bleach, is you can see the box has some discoloration, and then by using the spray bleach, this whole thing is going to come out a nicer white. And I'm going to do that before I sand it, okay? And then I'm going to take it outside and let it dry for about an hour before I begin sanding on this particular piece. And that will give me a nice base, I guess you could say, before I stain it throughout. On the rougher edges, like these here, I'm going to come across with my Dremel tool just to make my life easier and get as much of this material off as I can. And then I'll follow it with just a sanding sponge. See, I don't know if you ever use one of these, but that's just called a sanding sponge. Finally, when we're all said and done, I'll use teak oil on the outside of the actual box, and it will add some protection to the box, especially since the wood is so dry the teak oil will soak right in. And then on the roof, I'm just going to use an interior-exterior stain. That's all we're going to use on that particular thing. And again, it's going to soak right into the roof. So that's all the items I'm going to need to refurbish this. It's going to take me less than a day, and we should see the outcome a little later on. Okay, so all I'm doing is just spraying it down. I'm going to let it sit for about 15-20 minutes and then come back and rinse all this stuff off completely. I'm even doing the inside, but there's no reason for that. That's it. Just going to lay it here about 15 minutes and then I'll come back and get it. A little Dremel tool right here, and I'm using it instead of the sponge, the sanding sponge, because some of this is really torn up. So I'm just going to get started, show you what it looks like, and you don't have to watch the whole thing. I'm just going to turn it basically on high, and I'll just start taking all this off. I'm just taking off the spots that I can see it's flaking off. Now we're just using a sponge, and we'll come back on this side. I may do the Dremel tool again on this side. You can see how on one side of it, on this side, the stain basically lifted off. But the other side still looks really, really good. And it's probably due to where the sun is actually beating down on this side and not on the other side. We're going to do the same thing with the body. Basically just sanding it off. That's all we're doing. Still a little wet. I'm going to stick it back outside for a little bit. Still a little wet. Back out there before it rains. Okay. I want that to be ready. Okay, we're back, and then I wanted to show you, this is the back of the box, and I had noticed that there was some deterioration while I was looking at it, so I decided to take the back off, and I scraped away all the loose pieces, so the back of the thing is fine. Water is getting into it in these particular locations, and that's what's causing this. So this particular birdhouse will be probably on its last legs after we restore it today, but we'll see what it looks like in another 3 years. But we're going to put it back together and paint it right now. And we're going to use teak oil on the outside. Now I had showed you some of the spots where the board had deteriorated, and I'm not going to put any teak oil on the inside of this because I don't want any oil next to the birds. But I'm just trying to protect the outside from the elements, in this case being the water. We're not going to mess with the top until we put the red on. We're just going to put it on the side. Now this is an actual oil. I'm going to use just a old brush that I have, and I'm going to dump it right after I use it. But you could also use a foam brush if you wanted to. Now this is an oil, so it's going to just go on quickly. So all I'm going to do is just kind of put it on, just like that. It's real simple. I've used a cloth before. You could use a towel if you wanted to. You don't have to use this. We're just going to put it right on there, all the way around. You can see the damage right there. There it is. And all we're really doing is doing this to keep the thing protected from the weather. That's all. You can see how easy it goes on. Not real hard to do. It just soaks right into this wood. This wood is just so dry from being in the sun all that time. While we're at it, let's just get the bottom. You see, I'm going to have to make an adjustment to my screw right there. We got one screw out of place, and I'll do that here in a second. This needs to be level, so when we put the pull collar back on, it's all even. I'll fix that in a second. I'll show you why it happened too. It's just soaking right into the wood. This wood has nothing left to it, so we're just going to put it in there. Now notice we're really not using much of this oil. There wasn't much in that pan when we put it in there. So it really is the water that's killing the wood. That's what's actually doing it. I already put new screws in. I'm going to have to loosen this screw right here and then straighten out the bottom piece. And I'll do that after it dries here in about a second. I'm not worried about how much I put on the particular thing because it is just going to soak right in. Okay. All right. That's that part. Okay, now we're just going to do the red part. And then I'm using an interior-exterior stain here. And the reason why I am, because the exterior would be better, but we also use the same color in the store for staining decorations and store items, like fences and things like that we use throughout the store. And so we're just going to put it on. This is called like a barn red, I think people would call it. Another name for it that you see all the time is redwood. That's basically the name of the product, is redwood. You can get this in all kinds of different grades of stain too. When I say different grades, this one here is fairly expensive, but I don't like using cheap paint because it makes me do things twice. I don't like to do things twice, so I try to get a better paint. Now I will come back on the red here and do another coat. Okay, and I won't do it on the teak oil because once the teak oil sets in, it's kind of hard to put more oil on top of an oil. So that's just gonna, it won't give me a whole lot of advantage by doing that. This will be ready. It's July here in northeast Atlanta, up in Johns Creek, where we're at. And we're almost done with nesting season. We're probably on our third brood right now. So I felt pretty confident. This box was empty. It was used early in the season, but it was empty when I took it down. So I feel confident that we're done for the season, at least for this box. All right. There you go. A nice, what you have here is a nice 10 or 11-year-old Bluebird box. All you gotta do now is let it dry. Put the pole collar back on the bottom so it goes on the pole, and we'll be ready to go. I'm David Peterson with Outdoor Bird Supplies.